Hey, it's Warren Sprouse. You're on the Bible Forum. It is Sunday night. It is June 11th, 2017. We are plodding along with the events that took place this week, looking at them from a biblical point of view. And I talked to you last week about the upcoming Comey trial. Well, Director James Comey has now had his day in the sun. I watched it. For the most part, I think they broke by 1 o'clock. I had to go to work at 12:15, so I listened to it on radio. But I thought he was very careful. I thought he was cautious, especially as he was asked to place blame. It didn't seem like he wanted to do that. But it was clear that he didn't really trust President Trump. I didn't see any political bias influencing his decisions or his behavior. But Comey is a liberal, a progressive ideologue, with a reputation for cooperating with the Clinton wing of the party. We talked about that last week. The video is posted on the Facebook page, and it is available on the Bible Forum's Ustream.tv page. You need to go back and take a look at that. Before the Senate committee, Comey said he was reluctant to make public statements, specifically that, quote, we did not have an open case on President Trump, largely because it would create a duty to correct it should that circumstance change, end of quote. Now keep in mind, he publicly exonerated Hillary Clinton, even though the authority to charge or not charge lies with the federal prosecutors and not with the FBI. Keep in mind, he used the same press conference to excoriate Clinton's behavior. He also told Congress that the investigation of Clinton was closed, and then announcing days before the presidential election that the FBI had reopened the case and was once again investigating Hillary. Comey, according to his own testimony, repeatedly told Trump that the president was not being investigated by the FBI. He's on record as saying it 3 times. Not only that, Comey also told Congress that Trump was not being personally investigated. So why is it then considered inappropriate by Comey for the president to ask those facts be made public by the very individual who is asserting them? Well, it would have helped his political case, and that ain't going to happen. In regard to whether or not the president ordered Comey to drop the investigation, his answer was, quote, the president did not order me to let it go, end of quote. However, Mr. Comey did take the president's hope as direction, coming as they did from the president, as he said. Later on, Senator Rubio asked him, why is the only thing not leaked the sentiment from the FBI that the president is not under investigation? Comey didn't know. Senator Wyden, a Democrat, said, I believe your firing stinks. I believe it's an abuse of power. And then went on to ask, do you believe the president was trying to create some sort of patronage situation? Talking about that dinner meeting and loyalty and all that. And Comey said yes. Wyden then asked, do you believe a similar veiled implication from the president motivated the attorney general to recuse himself? Comey says, I really don't know. And then Senator Collins came up. She asked, was the president under investigation when you resigned? And Comey said no. Collins asked, when the president cleared the room, why didn't you tell him how inappropriate his requests were? Comey says, I mentioned this to key directors at FBI as inappropriate. She followed up by asking, did you share your memos with anyone? He said, yes, I asked a friend to share the memo with reporters. That's the leak. That's going to get him in court, perhaps. But the bottom line here is it appears that Director Comey read Trump's manner and character as untrustworthy. I don't find that shocking. I think if he read it any other way, he might not be paying attention. But clearing the room seemed to be something that troubled Comey. But presidents have done this fairly routinely in the past for all sorts of reasons. It was the president's perceived character that Comey said drove his opinion of the questions Trump was asking about General Flynn. And in the end, Comey was fired for not being the team player Trump expects from his inner circle. On the broader side, here are 5 takeaways from Comey's testimony according to something called the Daily Grind News. Number 1, Comey said that many news reports about the Russia investigation were dead wrong. In particular, he confirmed that a February 14th New York Times story about Russia and Trump's campaign team was almost entirely wrong. Secondly, Loretta Lynch. Comey confirmed that former Attorney General Loretta Lynch's suspicious tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton last summer was one of the key factors in his decision to go rogue and announce the closure of the Clinton email case on his own. Thirdly, criminal investigation. Comey confirmed publicly that ex-National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was the subject of a criminal investigation. Fourthly, leaked information. Comey encouraged a friend to leak the information about his interactions with President Trump to the New York Times. And this led to the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller, who worked with Comey for many years in the FBI. Fifthly, there were the lies. Comey said the Trump administration lied about the FBI and tried to defame him as an excuse for firing him. He also said he thought Trump would lie about their meetings, which is why he took notes during their conversations. Comey said he would not accuse President Trump of obstruction of justice, though he thinks Mueller should look into that matter. Now, watching and listening to the Comey testimony was difficult. Didn't seem to be a whole lot there. It was only later, as people began to analyze what was said, in large part regarding the law and his testimony, that all of this has emerged as somewhat tainted and very partisan. Some folks seem to be factoring in his past, which we talked about last week, and which is clearly partisan, a leaning toward the progressive philosophy in general, and toward the Clintons in particular. When conservative politicians and news people make their observations, they ring true based on what we know. At the same time, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's comments about high crimes and misdemeanors, implying impeachment proceedings, it just seems a little surreal. It's like he wasn't in the room, he didn't hear what everyone else heard, he doesn't understand what the words mean. The president clearly wanted Comey to drop the Flynn investigation. The president clearly wanted Comey to say he was loyal to him as a person. There's no testimony that the president actually put these in the form of an order or a quid pro quo, but I would have taken them that way, wouldn't you? Although Comey's firing would seem to indicate that that's exactly what he thought. On CNN, our beloved Chris Matthews commented on the Comey hearings, said something interesting for a liberal. He said the big story has always been the assumption of the critics of the president, of pursuers you might say, is that somewhere along the line in the last year the president had something to do with colluding with the Russians. A helping hand, encouraging them, he added, feeding their desire to affect the election in some way. Some role Trump played, some conversation Trump had with Michael Flynn or Paul Manafort or somewhere. And then he said, and yet what came apart this morning was that theory. Matthew said, because in two regards the president said, according to the written testimony of Mr. Comey, go ahead, get anybody, satellite to my operation, and nail them. I'm with you on that. And then today, Matthews continued, what was fascinating was that Comey basically said that Flynn wasn't central to the Russian investigation, merely that he was simply touching on it. That Flynn wasn't honest on the official forms he had to fill out to become a national security head. And because of that, the issue of collusion only touched on that. The bottom line, according to Matthews, there's no there. Do you think we'll hear this in the news over the next several months, that Chris Matthews doesn't think there's anything here? The legal eagles will debate this whole thing long after the Trump presidency is over, and they're never going to come to any real conclusions that are universally accepted. However, the mounting evidence of the Obama administration's clear violations of law and reasonable practice go unasked and unanswered. The most recent was news that the Justice Department allowed corporations to avoid legal prosecution by donating significant amounts of money to liberal, progressive, private corporations. Americans really don't want to know how this sausage is made. And partisan politics will continue to be a blood sport until Jesus comes. Get used to it.